Starlight, here with a video for you about the Kabbalah Tree of Life. We have the 3 columns here. The upright configuration of the Tree of Life has a straight vertical pillar flanked by 2 parallel side pillars. Each pillar represents a mode of divine influence within creation. A pattern of 10 circles is superimposed upon the 3 pillars. The circles are known individually as Sephirah and as a collective Sephirot. The Sephirot are linked among one another by paths or gates. Each of the interconnecting paths is associated with a specific Hebrew letter. The paths connecting the Sephirot are doors that allow our consciousness to travel from one plane of existence to another. So we live in a male-dominated world. So we know the left hemisphere of the brain is considered the masculine portion of our brain, and the right hemisphere of our brain is considered the feminine aspect of our brain. And the Bible talks about the marriage, which is supposed to be an alchemical wedding, which takes place inside of you. The kingdom of God is inside of us. So when they're talking about the wedding, it's an alchemical wedding that takes place inside of you, where you're balancing out the masculine and feminine inside of you, the alchemical wedding. And of course, everything that happens inside of us is also happening outside of us, and there is a collective energy outside of our own individual energy that we're beholden to. So we live in a male-dominated world. A lot of people are more left-brain dominant, which is more logic, cold, and in many ways we have gotten rid of the feminine aspect, right? And called it bad and evil. And even our calendars are only solar. So the current calendar we go by, the Julian calendar, is a solar calendar. It doesn't even take into consideration the feminine component, right? The 13 months, 13 months in a year. So we're only going by 12 months in a year. So this is the solar calendar. So in many ways, we've tried to get rid of the female component. And doing that has cost us a lot. To our detriment, right? We've erased the woman. And so now we're in a discombobulated world that is not balanced. And we're seeing a lot of mental illness, just people who, want to take from the Mother Earth and not give anything back. So it's like very toxic male energy. And so we're looking at here. So what I am wanting to discuss in this video. All right. So we had Jesus Christ, right? Jesus, he was physically a man. And what happens is when you're born a man, you need to master your female energy. That's part of the work we have to do, the alchemy in this world. So as a woman, I need to master my masculine energy. And of course, some people are the opposite. There's many women that are more masculine and need to master their feminine energy. But just for example, we're looking at the Jesus character, Jesus Christ. So he came here and he, being a man, had to master his feminine qualities. So here he represents the pillar of force, the pillar of mercy. So he was very merciful, right? Talking about forgiveness, kindness, loving, all those qualities that men should be trying to master. So when you overcome that and you're able to master the feminine qualities as a man, then you become balanced. So here, the right pillar is masculine yin energy. So it's opposite of what it normally is. So this is just like a cheat code, right? This is what we're supposed to be mastering. So it's active, dynamic, applying, positive, response to the inner world, involuntary process, internal world. So the right pillar is an active and applying pillar. It represents the spiritual force of expansion and creates the positive energy of mercy. These are the energies of self-unlimited, unrestrained, and unconditional. It holds the Sephirah, Chakma, Chesed, and Netzach. So on the left hand, we have the feminine. So when you're born a female in the world, a lot of us have to master the feminine pillar. So it's more of the masculine energy. So Jesus came here, he mastered the feminine quality. So now we have to have the counterpart, which is to master the masculine yang energy. So we know that a lot of women we get too into our emotions, and, we become, in many ways, these virtue signaling, feminine toxic energy. And we're supposed to master our masculine side. And that means not being a pushover. That means knowing when to use judgment, mastering justice. And those are really hard things to do. Oftentimes when a child gets in trouble, they're afraid of their father because the father is going to be more heavy-handed when he's disciplining the child. Whereas the woman, she's going to be less likely to dish out punishment. But see, that's the thing that women need to overcome, is our emotional side and knowing when to use severity in our judgment. So it's not easy to do, but that is definitely something that we must master as a collective. And that's why, so the Jesus came, now we have to have the counterpart to that, because everything has a masculine and feminine. So Jesus already came, now we need the woman to come and complete the story, the biblical story. So she has to come and master the left pillar. And then that way we can have total balance in the center here. So that's the only way the story will actually be completed. The two Mashiachs, if you will. So let's just take a look. So this is kind of where we need to focus right now. So the pillar of form, the pillar of severity, with feminine mastering the yang energy, passive, restrictive, receptive, negative. But this isn't negative in your traditional sense of negative. Response to the outer world, voluntary processes, external world. The left pillar is a passive and receptive pillar. It represents the spiritual force of restriction and has a quality of control, constraint, and contraction that creates the negative energy of severity, which is judgment. Okay, so she's going to have to master those qualities that aren't always easy to master, because, women are often seen as pushovers, doormats, and we can't do that. We have to be like the lioness who will not be a pushover. We have to know when to say enough is enough. And I believe collectively we are here. I believe that this is going to balance the pillars. I think many of us have done the alchemical wedding. And of course, this video I'm making today is regarding the two Mashiachs that will complete the great work in our external world for the collective consciousness. So she is going to bring in severity and judgment. She's going to have to master these fun, comfortable aspects, right? Because Jesus already mastered the mercy pillar, right? He had to master that aspect, his feminine energy, his yin. Now she has to come in and master the yang energy. So she's going to have to go outside her comfort zone and dole out judgment and justice. And that's not easy because of all the virtue signaling we have going on. And of course, justice is a tricky thing because you have to come from an unbiased place. So these are the energies of self limitations, restraints, and conditionals. It holds the Sephirot of Bina, Geburah, and Had. And, you know, even in the Bible, and I know most people aren't going to like what I'm going to say, but I don't care. The Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. Yeah, you can't just say, yeah, it's okay, you can do whatever you want. No, you can't. You have to dole out discipline and justice. That's the only way we will live in an equitable world, a fair world. We require that aspect to live in a good world. It has to be balanced, right? We want to be in the middle pillar here. And if you want another example of this, just think about the pH of water. If it's too acidic or too basic, it is not balanced. So for water to truly be balanced, it has to sit in the middle at a neutral pH. Otherwise, it'll be chaos. So everything in nature teaches you, like, it's basically God showing you, yeah, this is the cheat code here. I'm giving you all these examples. Iron sharpens iron. So God is showing us, right? This is how it is. These are the universal laws and principles that everything is beholden to. So if you have any doubt to it, just look at the principle of water. It's right there for you. Too acidic, too basic? Nope. It's got to be right in the middle, neutral pH. So sometimes, though, you need it to be acidic. Sometimes you need to be more on the basic side. Everything has its place in the world, but if it's just acidic, it's not going to work. So right now, since we're left brain dominant as a species, we have nothing but chaos in our world. Just stripping Mother Nature of all that she offers without appreciating any of it, and just being too logical, not even using the right brain, allowing that, and it's been called toxic because it can be toxic if it's not coming from a balanced place. So, the pillar of equilibrium in the middle, that's the pillar of consciousness, the line of light, balance, neutral. It is the immediate path to the divine. So right now we need to balance out because we're too much. Jesus came, did the mercy. Now we need to have the female counterpart come in and complete the story here through the left pillar, which is severity and judgment. So the middle pillar represents the synthesis between the two opposing forces. According to Rabbi Judah Low of Prague, absolute opposites cannot coexist. Each threatens the existence of the other, and stability is achieved by the introduction of a third harmonizing element. The third element contains the two opposites within itself, but is at the same time an entirely new force that is generated by them. Therefore, the middle pillar, it is the center of gravity for the whole tree. It holds Keter, Da'at, Tiferet, Yesod, and Malkut. And here's a visual of the pH scale. And you see how water is in the middle here at number 7. We know that 7 is God's number. And we are primarily made of water. And water is, if you look here, it's neutral. It's neutral. And what I find really interesting here is the scale here goes up to 14. So if you think about it, in the Bible, if you count all the tribes of Israel, there's really 14, right? And then it's like the 2 menorahs, right? Each menorah has 7 candlesticks. So 2 menorahs would equal 14. So there's a mystery in that as well, in the number 14. And I did a previous video talking about the zodiac and how some people have said there's actually 14, but it changes, it switches up because of the tilt of the earth. Okay, so here we have the missing zodiac signs that they try to erase. We have the 13th, Ophiuchus, which represents Enoch. And then the 14th zodiac is Metatron. So it's Orion, the 14th. So if you think about it, the 2 lampstands are really just a rainbow completing the circuit, right? You have the rainbow, if we looked at it from a different perspective, would actually be a circle, 360-degree circle. So we know the rainbow, visible light, there's 7 colors. So if we complete the circuit, which is make a circle, you would have the 7 plus the 7, right? Above, as above, so below. It would be 7 plus 7 is 14, right? So there is a mystery in the number 14. There is a mystery in the number 7. It's up to us to figure out what God's language is and how God speaks to us, because God speaks to us through nature, through the Torah, through the Bible, through the stories that we've passed on. And like I said, we already had the Jesus character come in, and he balanced the pillars through mastering his feminine energy. So now, to complete the story, we have to have the female counterpart come in and do balancing the yang, the masculine energy. And this story here, I might be the only one who has understood it this way. But of course, since we live in a world where the males are like, no, it's always about the man. No, it isn't. It's not always about the man. It's about balancing masculine and feminine. You know, that's what it's all about. That's the alchemical wedding. And not only is it the internal, but it's the external as well. So it's going to be a man and a woman. It started with a man and a woman. You know, it's going to end with a man and a woman. So there's a story here, and the way I interpret it is a little different than what I've heard everyone else. So the Bible story of a patriarch crossing his arms to give a blessing occurs in Genesis 48. When an elderly and blind Jacob, otherwise known as Israel, blesses the 2 sons of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh. By crossing his arms, Jacob placed his right hand, representing the greater blessing, on the younger son, and Ephraim on his left hand on the firstborn Manasseh. So the way I interpreted this is exactly what I just told you. He crosses his arms because he's letting you know, as a man, you're born, most of you are male energy dominant, so you have to master your yin, female energy, and that's exactly what Jesus already did. So now, being born a female, most of us are female dominant energy. So we need to master our yang energy. So once we have these 2 Mashiachs come in and do that work externally, first you have to do it internally though. Then the story will be completed, and then we can evolve collectively. This is what's missing to finish the story here. And that's how I interpret this story here in the Bible. So you don't have to agree with me, but that's the way I see it, right? He's crossing his arms, making an X too. 10 is the number of completion. So then we have the 2 Mashiachs finish the story, and now we're able to operate in the middle pillar, right? The neutral, the middle pillar of light, balancing everything out, meeting the pH balance of water, which is 7, right in the middle there of 0 to 14. So that's the way I understand this. Now here's another mystery. So the Bible's always talking about bearing fruit, and that's how you know that you have that you're operating within the Holy Spirit. So nature always has the answers, and it's so simple. It is like even a child can understand, because that's how God is. God is keep it simple, stupid. So just knowing how nature works with fruit trees, it requires the combination of male pollen and female ovule parts for fertilization. So most fruit trees do not require separate male and female trees. Instead, most possess the perfect flowers containing both male and female parts. And those are that's the only way you could produce fruit, is when you have the male and female parts. They need each other to produce fruit. So God is giving us, the answer right there. Like, hello, you need male and female to produce fruit. It can't be male on male or female on female. It's just not the way the universe works. And we're beholden to the universal laws. And that's just the way it is, Now, I'll give you an example. There are olive trees that possess only male parts, staminate flowers, or are specialized fruitless cultivars like Wilsoni or Swan Hill. So they do not produce fruit because they only have male parts. They don't have the female part, and they're not going to produce fruit. Okay, so 2 males do not produce fruit. So there's got to be a female Mashiach and a male Mashiach to do the great work externally. And that's the only way we're going to end up with that middle pillar. So the story needs the female to come in and master the yang energy. That's kind of where we're at. That's what we're missing. Collectively, we are more left brain dominant. So we do need the female to come in and balance out, to balance us out so we can, evolve, hopefully. So yeah, even though they don't produce fruit, so there's no cleanup, right? They're ornamental only. That's it. There is no fruit there. So there's a mystery. If you want to know how God operates, God gives you the answers in nature. It's so simple. So there's other Bible passages in the New Testament, and the conclusion I came up with was basically, here we have the Queen of the South. So she'll rise up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it, for she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and now one greater than Solomon is here. The Queen of the South will rise at the judgment with the men of this generation and condemn them, for she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and now one greater than Solomon is here. So when we're talking about the pillars, of the Kabbalah, right, the left and right, so we know the right-hand side is the masculine, even though, so this is how the brain is. So the left brain controls the right side of our body, okay? The right side of the brain controls the left side of our body. So it's crisscross. So here it's like the right side of the body, right? That's the male aspect. The left side's the female. So the left pillar is what we're talking about. This is the female component of the Kabbalistic tree of life, known as the pillar of severity or judgment. So those 2 passages I just read about the Queen of the South, this is going to complete God's work. This is where we're at right now. So the two Mashiachs, we had Jesus already. He mastered the pillar of mercy. Now we're going to have the other counterpart, the female Mashiach. She's going to master the pillar of judgment, severity. And that's the only way it can balance it out. So, of course, it represents feminine, restrictive, and structuring energy, comprised of Bina, understanding, Geburah, strength and judgment, and Hod, splendor. It limits the infinite, expansive energy of the right pillar, enabling